Hello and welcome to Integrity Radio. It's so nice to have you join us today. My name is Folashade Aderomu. And joining us on the conversation table today, even as we focus on charting blue horizons, opportunities for private sector initiatives in Nigeria's maritime sector, is Captain Emmanuel Iheanacho. He is the CEO, Genesis Shipping Worldwide. It's so good to have you join us today, sir. How do you do?
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Okay, so to begin with, since the announcement of the creation of the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, many Nigerians have said it is a new dawn for the country as the contributions of the maritime sector to the economy will be visible. Do you agree with these people?
I really like to differ a little bit.
Okay.
The Marine and Blue Economy Ministry has just been created. It's not as if the marine and blue economy domain has not been around, or maybe it was somewhere else and it was just brought into Nigeria. What we are referred to as the marine and blue economy is actually the port and shipping industry. And as long as Nigeria has been trading, as long as Nigeria has been part of the world economy, the ports and shipping industry have been there, and all the opportunities for development, for investment have been there. So if we suddenly wake up and rename an existing industry, and instead of calling it the port and marine industry, we say it's now the blue economy, it doesn't really introduce anything at all. What actually would create a wealth for Nigeria would be if we understood the opportunities that exist, if we understood the markets within which those opportunities can be actualized, if we subscribe to policies that will help our people move forward in those industries, then that is what is really important and critical. So renaming an existing industry and saying that, oh, something new has arrived, oh, we are going to get a 250 million jobs. I heard that the other day, and I really couldn't stop laughing because the Nigeria's population would be marginally over 250 million. So if we're going to have 250 million jobs created in the port industry, that means everybody in Nigeria, including those in the far north, including those in the south, everywhere, we will all pile into Lagos and we'll be working in the port system. It's not true. It's not realistic.
Right. So does that still mean, with the idea that some have said the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy is like naming a new Ministry of Petroleum Resources, since shipping is next to oil and can even surpass it if the right policies, are put in place? What are your thoughts about these as well?
Well, I cannot imagine how a shipping will surpass oil as a means of earning resources, whether foreign or local. They do different things. Shipping is involved as part of international trade, so carrying goods back and forth, including oil. So comparing them in a way that you can say shipping has surpassed oil is just not on. They support each other. So what I really think that the policymaker should be focusing upon would be the policies to optimize the opportunities that are there. Some people have gone forward to say that, the marine and blue economy is low-hanging fruits. I say there are fruits up there, but they're not really low-hanging because you don't go to battle with bare hands and expect to beat the people who have guns. So you need to have equipments, and in this case, we're talking about ships. You need to have ports that will interface with those ships. You need to have human resources who understand how the markets operate, because there are markets for different types of ships, liner vessels, and then bulk shipping. So you need to have all of these resources coming together through conscious government policy to produce the results that can actually create a wealth for our people.
Well, you've actually said, a lot as regards the new ministry, talking about the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. But in the past decades, many challenges, have been faced with the Ministry of, talking about the maritime industry, looking at poor management, delays, lack of political will. But then, in order to, curb all of these in this new ministry, people are beginning to call for more private participation. From your experience and as a participant in the industry, Is that what you also, put a call out there for?
Sure, I agree with you that we need to have a more private sector participation in producing the shipping services that serve our trade. It's not as if we haven't invested in shipping production. Way back in the 1960s, for instance, you know that when Obasanjo was there, he actually invested a lot of money in buying a national fleet, so to speak. Let me call it a national fleet because he spent money to buy, I think, about 12 ships at that time. But because of very poor policies, where we didn't look at the type of markets, the type of ships, and where we can optimize the use of those vessels, all of those things came to waste, so that a few years down the line from the acquisition, we lost all of those ships. So there are a lot of opportunities for economic growth and for revenue performance through investments in the domain that you now refer to as the blue economy. We can actually help. Shipping, of course, is traditionally highly capital intensive. And really, if we want to go into it, we really need to look at where we're going to get the monies from. We can't continue to wish that the monies will be there, or those who are already in shipping, who are going to be our competitors, are now going to be very pleased to provide the money for our people and lend them the money to go and buy a ship. They would not do it because it would be like you are telling somebody to go and hang himself. So we must look at it and say, we need to have ships carrying our trade. The primary product that provides money for us is crude oil. But it's really shameful that even at this point, we don't have one single Nigerian vessel that lifts Nigerian crude and takes it to the markets. Left to me, if I was in a position to advise Mr. President, I would tell him we need to invest in ships. And also, when it comes to carrying crude and taking them to foreign markets or taking them to refineries, we have to ask ourselves, is that really the best solution? We are better off if we were able to refine those products in situ in Nigeria. So we'll cut up the transport element and the cost that's associated with it, so that at the end of the day, you would be able to produce the refined fuel without the transport element, because now you are refining the fuel in our place. So that's one thing that we can do. We can also produce the shipping services, not just for servicing our own economy, but for going to third-party countries who do not have the resources and the technical knowledge and know-how and experience to operate ships. And so we can supply them with shipping services, create jobs for our people, would allow our people to repatriate and bring in a lot of foreign exchange that we require. I'm sure that you know about the example of the Philippines, where they absolutely bring in huge amounts, running into the billions of dollars from their seafarers being able to work on foreign ships. We have a lot of idle hands, young men. We have institutions that are supposed to train people, and they are training a lot of people. But you know, that is the sad paradox that we have, that people are going through training, and they finish training, and there's no ship for them to be employed on. So if you have the example of your own ships, and people see Nigerians running those ships, and we're paying them according to Nigerian wage scales, but they are bringing in foreign earnings, we are going to be winners. So we are suffering from a lack of a properly conceived policies that really would help optimize the receipt of substantial revenue, profits, technology, learning, and all of those things.
So now, with the idea of this new ministry, the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, if you've just said it now, that if you are given the opportunity by the presidency, these are some of the things, you have highlighted that you will be doing. Let's now look at it that if you are also, opportune to speak with the minister, what are some of the advices you'll be giving him based on your experience in the industry?
I will tell him to listen to Integrity Radio and listen to the things that I said in this program. He must look at, people use the term, we must have a national fleet. You have to define what a national fleet means. And a national fleet is a fleet of vessels that service our economy, but they are flying the Nigerian flag. But I haven't made any comments as to the ownership of that fleet.
Exactly.
Is it going to be owned by the private sector, or is it going to be owned by government? If we go by the example of what has happened to us historically, I told you about the ships that were bought by Obasanjo.
Obasanjo's administration.
I told you, I didn't tell you, but I'm telling you now about the organization that took over from the Nigerian National Shipping Lines when the NNSL went under. That was the NUL. The same fate, because they applied, bring somebody on a political basis. So this man was an admiral, give him the job. An admiral is not really a merchant seaman. He doesn't understand the concept of a market for vessels. He's a fighting person. He works on board the fighting ships. But just because he's an admiral does not mean you bring him and make him the CEO of a merchant trading a company. So these are the things that happened. We were appointing managers based on political considerations, and we were appointing people who were wholly inexperienced and didn't have the capacity to, in fact, conceive of the policies that we needed to move the country forward.
So are we also seeing or likely to see the same fate with the appointment that have been made in this new ministry?
I don't know. I think that what really would have happened is that if somebody is listening to what I'm saying, if you really agree with what I have said, then you are going to go out and say, well, I'm not going to appoint people based on political consideration. I'm going to appoint people based on capacity. And if I was in the position to advise the policymakers, I would say to them, that is the way to go. Resist this temptation to say, you belong to this political party. People win elections so that they can demonstrate to other people the very best way to run a country. You don't win it to say, well, my party won it, and we're going to really share the spoils by ourselves. That's not the way to run a country.
All right, so we do understand the existence of, private organizations in the maritime industry, but what are they doing currently, independently to help secure and also see how they can help us promote the sustainability of Nigeria's blue economy?
They are talking about it all the time. If you want to say to me, what are they doing? They are not sitting idle. So if you read the newspapers, you will hear about NISA, Nigerian Shipping Association members talking about CVFF, different factions talking about different things. But let's face realities. Shipping is a highly capital-intensive business. I did say to you that if you really want to make an impression, we want to establish a national fleet. But if we want to establish a national fleet, we want to be able to buy ships. If we want to buy ships, we want to know that we're buying the right type of ships. How do we know that they're the right type of ships? The ships to service our economy are a reflection of the size and character of the goods that are carried, because shipping essentially is actually part of international trade. These are some of the things that we really ought to master. So if I wanted to buy a ship, for instance, I wanted to buy a 45,000 deadweight tanker, for instance, I would be looking to shell out about $36 million to $40 million or more. If I wanted a bigger ship, the more money we are going to shell out. So we have to address the issues of the competing needs that we have for the money that's available. And if we think that the shipping investment would yield more for us over time, we have to route the resources there. It's absolutely self-defeating to give people advice and say, go and borrow the money from the Nigerian banks, when you know that the Nigerian banks suffer from very poor capitalization, do not understand the business of shipping, and those of them who have actually ventured to loan money to people to buy ships have absolutely burnt their fingers. So there's so many things that need to be done.
There's this concept of leapfrog advancement. You really want to break that down for us, on the program today?
Well, to be honest, it is the first time that I have heard about this leapfrog advancement. I heard it from you, actually. So then, just thinking about it logically, and we arrange our paths to development, and some chap who's at the back says he's going to leapfrog and jump and go to the front. Isn't he going to break his head? Isn't he going to absolutely come a cropper? He has to go through the whole gamut of learning so that by the time he gets to the front, he knows mistakes not to make. So this leapfrog advancement, again, is one of those cliches that you continue to hear all the time. I don't know about a leapfrog advancement, and I don't know that it's such a good thing.
Okay, so how can innovative technologies and strategies help us, redefine things in the sector, looking at this new ministry in view?
innovative technologies, there are so many things that are actually happening. If we talk about shipping, for instance, there was a time when I told you about Obasanjo's and the type of ships that he bought. He bought ships that had what you call a low block coefficient vessel, meaning that they would be very big, but they didn't carry much.
Ooh.
And so because of the changes in the way cargo was packaged over time, so instead of us carrying all kinds of goods and putting them in ships, we decided that we were going to be putting them in containers. So that affected the design of vessels. So that's not the only change that we have seen. We've seen changes in ship types, we've seen changes in engine types, we've seen changes in technology. And where we are moving on to now, in the very near future, we are moving on to what you call the automated vessel that would be autonomous.
Okay.
So it leaves, say, Scandinavia. It is laden with containers, and there is nobody on board to man it. And because of the changes in technology, Internet of Things, cloud technology, A1 technology, all of those things, you now can have vessels that can sail all the way from Norway. It kicks out,
Okay.
it starts sailing, it senses where it is, it's looking at charts, it's following a track, it just continues until it comes down to, say, West Africa. But now the big problem that we have is that if we are not developing in that way, looking at those developments and looking at how it's going to impact upon our productivity in the future. So the ship will come down to Lagos and it will not be able to dock because it's an autonomous vessel and it needs equivalent autonomous dock structures to be able to say, we sense that the ship is here. Please come in and dock that. So we have to understand the impact of these changes. It's in the literature. We have to read it all the time, and we have to project and say, in the near future, where will that leave us? Or would we be in a situation where an autonomous ship will come and it will then drop anchor outside and will then bring another old type vessel to go and rendezvous with it, and we're just increasing costs and we're not promoting efficiency.
All right, so even as we, begin to round off things here, in the near future, like you just said now, where do we put, our private sector in the scope of things, looking at this new ministry?
Well, our private sector, we really would have to encourage the private sector to do most of the things that the public sector do, because from historical experience, we find out that the public sector investments don't do as well as the private sector investments. In the public sector, it's everybody's business, it's nobody's business. So I'm going to be there. When they say that I retire, whatever I make, I take and I go home. A private sector man is there, your reputation is on the line. If you don't deliver, you're going to be sacked and kicked out, and you don't want that to happen to you. So we need to be able to encourage our private sector, encourage them in terms of putting in the correct policies. Like I said to you, if we're talking about shipping and the blue economy, and we want them to have ships, and ships are highly capital intensive, then we have to find a way to overcome that problem of lack of capital to buy ships. So these are some of the things that we could do.
So,
but can I just say to you also
all right,
that there are quite a lot of other areas related to mainline shipping that we haven't actually done anything about.
So what are
leisure?
Those? Okay.
The leisure industry. When you overfly our coast, and you're flying towards Port Harcourt, and you look at this thing that really earns so much money for countries in Southeast Asia, tourism, white sand, people like to enjoy it. So if we then struck a relationship with people who have actually developed such facilities in the past, so we want beachfront facilities well developed, we would make some money from that. We'll make some money from the multiplier benefits that you realize in investing in shipping. Multiplier in terms of ships require steel. So steel, it feeds into our steel making capacity. So we have to develop our steel industry. bunker industry, because we need to supply bunkers to power these vessels. So we need to deal with it. Fishing industry, coastal shipping, inland waterways. There are quite a lot of things that need to be systematically looked at and policy provisions made for developing those areas and optimizing the revenue potentials that they have.
So it makes it that we have so many areas at which our private, participants can come in when we talk about the Ministry of...
a lot of areas, yes.
All right, then. That's how far we will go today. Thank you so much, Captain Emmanuel Iheanacho, CEO, Genesis Shipping Worldwide. Together, we've been able to discuss charting Blue Horizons, opportunities for private sector initiatives in Nigeria's maritime sector. It's so good to have you join us today, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Folashade is my own name. Folashade Aderomudu. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.